Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So welcome back to my channel. I hope you all are well. Myself Nabiha Nadeem. So in this particular video, we are going to deal with another interesting topic which is related to chemistry, and the topic is nitrogen. So we in this video we'll talk about nitrogen, like what nitrogen is, and its preparation in the laboratory. We'll also deal with the nitrogen fixation and other things. So stay tuned till the very end. Alright, as you know, our Earth is surrounded by a blanket of air, which is known as the atmosphere. Which is known as the atmosphere. Okay, atmosphere. It is the blanket of air that surrounds the Earth. You know what? Dry air most probably contains, like this is a diagrammatic representation. It contains 78.09% of nitrogen, 20.95% of oxygen, and 0.92% of argon, and 0.04% of carbon dioxide and other gases. So this is what we call the composition of air. Okay. Now the air also contains variable amount of water vapor and dust. Alright. Okay. Now the composition of air varies from place to place and does not have a formula. Okay. Therefore, air is a mixture, not a compound. Because mixture does not have a formula, but a compound can. So that is why air is considered to be a mixture and not a compound. Alright? Okay. Dealing with this topic, which comprises the maximum amount of the composition of air, that is nitrogen. So, nitrogen was discovered by Daniel Rutherford. Are you getting the name? Nitrogen was discovered by Daniel Rutherford in the year 1772. Okay, and was named in and it was discovered in 1772, but it was named in 1794. Okay, it was named as nitrogen in 1794. It is mostly founded in free state in the atmosphere. Okay. Now, nitrogen is essential for the growth of plants and animals. We know that. Okay, nitrogen is essential for the growth of plants and animals. It is an important constituent of the chlorophyll as well. Okay, which is present in the cells of the green plants. Like we have discussed about it in the previous videos as well. And if you have not watched the video still, what are you waiting for? Go visit my channel and watch the videos. Okay. So nitrogen is essential for the growth of plants and animals. It is an important constituent of chlorophyll, which is present in the cells of the green plants. Okay. Now it is also important for the production of proteins in animals. Okay. So nitrogen is a very significant factor. If we talk about the laboratory preparation of nitrogen, so how is nitrogen prepared? So nitrogen can be prepared in several ways. Okay, one method is to pass air over a hot copper gauze. Gauze in a closed container. The copper combines with the oxygen, of the air to form copper dioxide, leaving nearly pure nitrogen. Let me write down the formula so it will be easier for you to understand. Cu, that is copper, plus oxygen plus nitrogen, it gives CuO plus N2. If I balance its equations, it's 2 and 2. Okay. Now, if I explain it to you that what they have told in this, the copper, this copper, Cu is copper, copper combines with oxygen, and forms copper oxide. Like when both of these things combine, they form copper oxide. Okay, leaving nearly pure nitrogen. When both of these things combine, what is left behind? Nitrogen, right? So this is what it is like when copper and oxygen combine, they form copper oxide, leaving behind nitrogen. This is how nitrogen is prepared. Okay, now talking about the significant and the uses of nitrogen, like how is nitrogen useful and all. So like for example in the food industries and all, being non-toxic, because we know that nitrogen is non-toxic. Nitrogen is used to preserve food items such as potato chips. Liquid nitrogen is also used as a refrigerant for freezing food. Okay, now let me write it for you as well. Like it is used in the food industry. Okay, I'm just writing the short form. Okay. In the food industry, then in the manufacturing of chemicals as well, like nitrogen reacts with hydrogen to produce ammonia, which is NH3, right? Nitrogen reacts with hydrogen to form ammonia, which is NH3. If you don't know the formula, then I'll the chemical equation. So it is like this: N2, that is nitrogen, when it combines with hydrogen 3H2, it forms a reversible reaction, that is 2NH3. Okay, 2NH3. And this is done, like iron is taken as the catalyst here, and it is done on high pressure and temperature, about 450 degrees Celsius. All right. So nitrogen is very significant. And ammonia, which is formed with the help of nitrogen, is used to make fertilizers and other important chemicals as well. Okay. Now ammonia is produced on a large scale by a process known as the Haber-Bosch process, and we'll discuss about this about this process in the upcoming videos, inshallah. Okay. So nitrogen is used to manufacture nitrogenous fertilizers as well, such as the ammonium nitrate, which is NH4 NO3. It is ammonium nitrate. So nitrogen is used to manufacture nitrogenous fertilizers, that's ammonium nitrate. It is also used to make calcium cyanamide, which is CaCN2, calcium cyanamide, and which is a raw material for urea production. Urea is used as a fertilizers. All right. Okay, so nitrogen is a very significant product. Nitrogen is also used in the manufacture of compounds of nitrogen, such as TNT, okay, trinitrotoluene, and nitrocellulose, and various other things. And nitrogen is also used in the dyeing industry for making dyes that are used to color fabrics and all. Okay, so nitrogen is a very, very prominent and significant product which is used in the manufacture of various chemicals. Moreover, it is also used in the manufacture of medicines as well. Nitrogen is used in making a wide variety of medicines, including the antibiotics as well. All right. Now, if we talk about the renewal of nitrogen, so nitrogen, as I said, that nitrogen is non-toxic. It's non-toxic. Okay. Now, nitrogen neither burns nor supports burning, but the oxygen present in the air supports burning. Hence, the presence of nitrogen in the atmosphere dilutes the activity of oxygen by controlling the rapid burning, which is the combustion most probably, and respiration. Okay, because if we talk about the composition of air, so we have nitrogen, which does not support burning. Okay, it neither burns nor supports burning. But oxygen, which is present in 20.95% oxygen, which is present in the air, this supports burning. Hence, the presence of nitrogen in the atmosphere, it dilutes the activity of the oxygen. It acts as a resistance in the activity of oxygen by controlling the rapid burning or the combustion and the respiration process as well. Okay, now the nitrogen is renewed in the atmosphere through the nitrogen cycle. Okay, it's renewed in the atmosphere through the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen cycle, if we talk about, so nitrogen cycle is the circulation of nitrogen between the atmosphere, soil, and the living organism. So let's discuss about the nitrogen cycle now. Alright, talking about the nitrogen cycle. So nitrogen cycle is the circulation of nitrogen between the atmosphere, soil, and living organism. Okay, it's the circulation of nitrogen. I'm just writing this short form. Nitrogen N2 between the atmosphere, soil, and the biotic factors of the environment. Okay, biotic factors of the environment. So this is what nitrogen cycle is. So in the nitrogen cycle, free atmospheric nitrogen gets converted into nitrogen compounds and enters the soil. Okay, now these compounds are taken up by the living organisms or the biotic components and become a part of their bodies. Okay, so eventually these nitrogenous compounds are returned to the soil and are then converted back into the atmospheric nitrogen. So this is a kind of cycle which constantly goes on. It's a kind of cycle which goes on. So in this video, we'll discuss about the nitrogen fixation or the nitrogenous cycle. Alright, so the nitrogen cycle includes 5 steps. Let's see what are those 5 steps. First is the nitrogen fixation. We have this already. First is the nitrogen fixation here. Okay, then we have the assimilation of soluble nitrates, assimilation. Then we have the ammonification, this. Then we have nitrification, and then we have the denitrification. So let's deal with all these topics one by one. So talking about the first cycle, first step in the nitrogen cycle, which is the nitrogen fixation. So nitrogen fixation is the process by which free nitrogen in the atmosphere, because nitrogen is freely available in the nature. So nitrogen fixation is the process by which free nitrogen in the atmosphere is converted into soluble nitrogen compound. Free nitrogen in the atmosphere is converted into soluble nitrogen compounds, usually the nitrates most probably. Okay, now these compounds can be easily absorbed by the plants from the soil. Nitrogen fixation can take place in two ways during the nitrogen cycle. Okay, it can take place in two ways. Alright, nitrogen is in the air is converted into soluble nitrates with the help of nitrogen fixing bacteria, example the rhizobium bacteria. Like in the previous video, I told you about the symbiotic relationship, right, in which the leguminous plants like the pea and the bean, they have the rhizobium bacteria and their root nodules. So these root nodules help in the conversion of the nitrogenous compounds into simpler compounds, so that they can be easily absorbed by the roots, by the plants and all. So that is why the first way in which the nitrogen in the air is converted into soluble nitrates with the help of the nitrogen fixing bacteria, which is the rhizobium bacterium. Okay, by the process of nitrogen fixation. Now nitrogen fixing bacteria are found in the root nodules like of the leguminous plants most probably. Okay, such as the pea, beans and the pulses. Now these bacteria convert the nitrogen in air into the ammonia and then into nitrate, which is NO minus 3. Okay, NO3 minus. NO3 minus. So what happens is that now the bacteria, the rhizobium most probably, convert the nitrogen in the air, in the air into ammonia, which is NH3, and then into the nitrate, which are the NO3 minus ions. Okay, now these nitrates are used by the plants to make proteins. Okay, now these are used by the plants to make proteins. Nitrogen fixing bacteria thus provide nitrates to the plant in turn for food and shelter. So this is kind of symbiotic relationship in which both are mutually being benefited. This relationship where the plants and the bacteria are mutually benefited is known as symbiosis. Okay, now nitrates are also, talking about the second process in which this nitrogen fixation happens, is that nitrates are also formed during the natural lightening process. What we say, this lightning process. Okay, natural lightning process. The nitrogen in air combines with oxygen to form nitrogen dioxide. Okay, the nitrogen in air, it combines with oxygen plus oxygen to form nitrogen dioxide, NO2, right? Nitrogen dioxide then combines with the rainwater which is present, rainwater, to form nitric acid. Now this nitrogen dioxide combines with the rainwater to form the nitric acid. Now the nitric acid dissociates to provide nitrates to the soil. Now this nitric acid dissociates to form nitrates and provides nitrates to the soil, this soil. Understood? Alright. Now that we know what nitrogen fixation is, let's move a step ahead and let's understand what assimilation of soluble nitrate is. Now the roots have absorbed the nitrates. Now let's see now what happens. Okay. Now the soluble nitrates which are present in the soil are absorbed by the plants. Okay, through their roots, the root nodules most probably, and are converted into proteins. Now animals consume plants, right? Animals consume plants, like we talked about the producers, consumers and so on. So now, as I told you that the producers, which are the plants, they have 100% of the energy, and the plants which the animals which consume the plants, they get 10% of that energy, right? Okay, so now animals consume plants and thus take in the assimilated protein into their bodies. Now whatever protein is prepared by the soluble nitrates by the plants, now that is taken by the animals when they consume it. Okay, now that we know assimilation is most probably this only what I told you right now. Now dealing with the other step, which is ammonification. Now, certain bacteria decompose and the remains of the dead plants and animals and break down proteins to release ammonia, and this process is called ammonification. Okay, now the bacteria which is present, it convert the animal waste and the remains of the dead plants and animals into ammonium compounds. Okay, and they break down the proteins to release ammonia, and this is what ammonification is, and it is very kind of significant and prominent step in the nitrogen fixation process, nitrogen cycle. Now coming towards the next step, which is nitrification. So now what happens in nitrification? Now the nitrosomonas bacteria, the bacteria's name is nitrosomonas bacteria convert ammonium compounds into nitrates, into nitrites, and nitrobacter bacteria convert nitrites into nitrates. I know it's confusing, but actually what happens is the nitrosomonas bacteria, they convert the ammonium compounds into nitrites, and on the other hand the nitrobacter bacteria, it converts the nitrites. Now these nitrites are converted by the nitrobacter bacteria into nitrates. Okay, now this process is called nitrification. Some of these nitrates are then absorbed by the roots of the plants. Okay, let me repeat it because this is kind of confusing and yet very important. See, we have two bacteria which are playing the role here in the process of nitrification. Okay, now the nitrosomonas bacteria, they convert the ammonium compounds into nitrites, and then the nitrobacter bacteria convert the nitrites into the nitrates, and this process is called the nitrification. Okay, now talking about the third process which we have to deal with is denitrification. Okay, now the remaining nitrates which are present in the soil are acted upon by the Pseudomonas bacteria. Now another bacteria plays a role here, which is known as the Pseudomonas. Let me write the spelling for you. Pseudomonas. Okay, bacteria. Okay, the remaining nitrates now which are present in the soil, the remaining nitrates which are present in the soil are acted upon by our Pseudomonas bacteria, which convert the nitrates into free nitrogen by the process of denitrification. Now this process we converted in the beginning we converted the free nitrogen into nitrates. Now now the nitrates are being converted back into the free nitrogen, and this process is called the denitrification. This free nitrogen is released in the atmosphere once again, and this process goes on. Easy, right? It's confusing yet very interesting. If you try to understand it, then it's going to be really very interesting. So this is what nitrogen cycle is. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have any kind of query or something, because I know the topic is confusing, you can tell me, or you can just mention it in the comments down below. I promise that I'll answer it. So I hope you understood the topic. So that's it for today. Jazakallah khair for watching. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.